Hello, and good morning. Okay, so another AI arena just came out a little bit ago. So yeah, we have 7 new arenas here based off of AIACs. The first one here is going to be Friendly Hostile. We've also got these other ones down here. So we got Friendly Hostile, we got Royal Angel, we've got Vector, we got Mine, we got Darkslayer, we got Busters, and Mr. Pro Cows down at the very bottom there. He said one of them was unexpectedly good, and I feel like that's got to be either Busters or Pro Cows, but we'll see. We'll see. Because I think he was working on Busters at the time. So, as per usual, gonna be rocking my starch diet over here. Basically, usual kind of manual fire type idea. Generally speaking, it's built entirely about just trying to not get hit by stuff and cool off as much as possible. It's not meant to take very many hits, and is just, well, meant to do hit and run kind of stuff. So, let's see, this one's going to be direct fire, probably mid-long range kind of a thing. So, fair enough, no missiles, so we can drop these. They're just mostly an extra. I usually keep the small missile thing around in case there's any need for additional shots. Generally speaking, since this is early 3rd gen, that's going to be enough shots. Now, the other ones didn't have any commentary to them. The only reason I'm doing that now is, well, because I was asked to. So, I was kind of asked to give a little bit of, kind of like a little bit of a tutorial of sorts, in terms of just kind of rocket sniping, or potato sniping, or whatever you want to call it. And, well, how it's done. So, first thing, one thing I notice that people kind of tend to do wrong whenever they try to use rockets in general, and the whole reason it doesn't tend to work out for them is because they're actually trying to aim the thing. You don't. You basically try to aim the other guy into wherever you're facing. So that's really the trick to using the things. So like right here, I know roughly what kind of pattern he's following, I know roughly what area he's going to be in, so that's what I aim at. Rather, that's what I aim the core at. And, yeah, hopefully it ends up hitting him. You make, like, little last-second turns in order to correct stuff. And generally speaking, it helps to do a couple of those. If you think they might be going in 2 different directions, can't decide which one it might be, well, that's when you fire in the 2 different directions, like right there. Didn't know if it was going to go right or left, so I just basically guessed both. Now, with this kind of setup, obviously you only have one choice as far as hand rockets go in this one, but you basically have one that's going to have more shots, you have one that's going to end up having more power to it. So what I try to do is end up using the napalms here whenever I'm not entirely competent in a shot. And I actually have the controls mapped a little bit differently to have the left arm on the left thumbstick, just because I find it a lot easier to aim that way. You can, I mean, originally when I had done this run, it was using the base PSP controls, which is fine, but, you know, not ideal. Okay, so this guy appears to be completely out of shots, except for his rifle and Selena, presumably. And there we go, he's on fire. Mostly seems to be taking a different range than he was before. That's what's a little bit hard to hit him. But there we go. Usually you'll find that you get sort of internalize how fast something is moving behind cover of some description, and then that's basically just what you use to aim. So there we go. First guy wasn't terribly challenging. Looks to be just kind of a juggernaut sort of build. So, you know, as you do. Okay, so next up we got, well, laser cannon sniper. Let's see, 15 shots on that, 80 on the rifle. This is probably going to be one to stick to the borders with. I doubt I'm going to flank him because he's got the turners on him. And I don't plan on getting close because of the amazingness of blade tracking. Okay, so because of that, pretty confident that about 3-4 solid double hits will be enough to cripple him. At least one should hopefully be enough. Unfortunately, all of these will likely end up using OPI, so I doubt I'm going to get very far on the whole crippling thing, but, you know, I'm just somebody that really likes to use cripple strategies. It's just something that I always like doing. Like, hell, recently did a Tactics Ogre thing that's like 45 minutes of trying to well, strangle out one unit that I don't nearly have the actual damage potential to take out, but sure enough, you know, over the course of that friggin' almost hour, ended up beating the guy. Okay, so now this guy's a bit faster. Honestly, in this case, what you want to do is try to just take pot shots with the napalms, and then when you think they're going to make a wild turn of some description, that's when you go for the heavier one. Just because you usually want to save some of the heavier ones in case you end up sniping later down the line. And right there, you can, if you end up kind of roughly having a triangle of where they might be, just try to kind of spread your shots out through that area as much as possible, just to keep it consistent. So at the very least, you'll hit with one of them. Like the hand rockets, or the right arm ones, have a pretty good chance of an overheat on their own. Napalms are pretty much guaranteed. There's very few builds that it's not guaranteed on. So yeah, there we go. You busted through my shields here, so it's going to be a little bit of a problem from here on out. You know, worst case scenario, try to do something like this, where you're pretty much panic firing while running backwards. It's more effective than you'd think. You know, worst case scenario, you maybe run them a bit low on shots. This actually even works on people whenever you're playing. Oh, there we go. He wants to go for a blade. That's his call entirely. Okay, that one's out. Fair enough. So that's why you want to try and reserve them a little bit, or preserve them rather. Now, ideally, you'd want to try and keep those around, or try and keep them around so that you have a better idea of where you're aiming. I roughly have it internalized at this point. Yeah, one shot, not enough, so that's fine. He was almost down. Can go ahead and do that again. So that was entirely my fault for that little wild firing bit, but it's gonna happen. There you go, take your first shot. Now, if you're wondering why I don't just snipe them on the way over, generally speaking, I like to give them all the first shot. It's something that, what's his face, Javelin had asked me for a while ago. Said, oh yeah, you're being cheap at range. I'm like, okay, fine. From now on, all of them get the first shot. Okay, so, gonna stay out of range of that laser. Unfortunately, yeah, he's a little bit erratic. So that's fine, though. Yeah, those turners do a pretty good job for him. While the buildings are still up, you can usually actually pull a little bit of a tricky strategy, which is if you end up getting far away. Like this kind of thing right here. You can just slowly walk. And if you look very closely, you can just tell there's a little disturbance where they are, because, well, the game doesn't really fully do all of the shadows and everything. It doesn't fully make everything correct, so just do something like this, and completely lame it out if you want. But either way, it's just a little trick. I mean, it's not consistent enough, but once or twice, you know, you may end up finding that yourself in that situation, and you can just abuse it. So, a win's a win, as they say, but either way, he got the first shot. Really, this AC starts to go downhill pretty sharply once the side shields are blown off, as you may have noticed, but that's entirely its design. Basically, a lot of its defense is completely destructible, as you do, but at least it saves a lot on weight. Okay, so we got another direct fire and EO1. It seems like Friendly Hostile is a pretty big fan of that kind of setup. So alright, let's do this thing. It seems entirely shell-based, so it should be pretty decent to dodge. Okay. Now, personally, I like to aim a little bit higher whenever I'm going for more of a defensive thing. Try to aim a little bit lower when I'm trying to go more offensive. Ah, this guy's going to be hard to dodge. Actually, it's going to be hard to hit him. It's a little bit harder to see. That is one thing. Whenever you're manual firing, you definitely have to worry about color schemes a lot more. So like all the bright yellows and completely black ones and stuff like that, they're going to be a lot harder to, or those are going to be a lot easier to see, whereas something like white and red like this is actually pretty difficult to see. At least for me, anyway. Just because it kind of tends to blend in with the background a bit. But there we go. Very aggressive one, very solid one. He did get a little bit caught on a corner, and that was the end of him. Moving on. Mr. Adromalek. Not sure what you're doing here from FFT, but, you know, whatever works. So it looks like a napalm howitzer. You actually don't see that much, so that's pretty cool to see. Actually, this is using a lot of my favorite parts from Silent Line. Alright. Yeah, he's not going to be using any missiles. Seems like he's all direct fire. Fine by me. Gives a little bit more weight to work with. So we're going to do something a little bit like this. There we go. Take your shots. So I do not... that was the one thing I completely didn't want to get, and unfortunately I ate it right in the face multiple times. Awesome. That's entirely my fault. Oh well, such things happen. Alright. I could go ahead and blame Rust, but I entirely blame myself. Actually, it's an FFT reference, so you gotta blame yourself for God, right? Actually, no wait, they took that that line out of the remake for some reason, when they remade it as War of the Lions. And I don't know why, because that was one of the coolest lines in the thing. Because, basically, the guy kidnaps somebody. It's like, wait a minute, you can't just run off of that person? Like, well, you were supposed to be protecting them, so blame yourself or blame God. Bye. I was like, man, dick move, but kinda like that line. Okay. I was really expecting him to veer a little bit more there. There we go. And these borders, they'll never end up going outside of them, so it's a pretty good way to kind of funnel them around. Huh, somehow my second one missed him there. Not sure how that happened. Nope, gonna get hit. Actually, he didn't fire for some reason. That's fine. There you go, you are now done. Goodbye. Yeah, I like that one. That was pretty good. I don't think it would function nearly as well without OPI, but fun build right there. Actually, come to think of it, instead of Crossback, I probably should have submitted my Neil-only build. Wonder if he would have been interested in setting that up. Oh well. Moving on. Mr. Iblis. Alright, so we got a... see, I like this because it's a generic jack, but it doesn't have the missiles on it. You always see the freaking missiles. So I gotta respect, you know, sticking to a particular style here. So we got direct fire as well. 800 MG and Moonlight. Grenades are gonna be a little bit hard to dodge. Gonna be a little bit harder to attrition, but I guess it'll all depend on how aggressive this thing is. Actually, does it have insides? Yes, but it's using DD-20s, so it doesn't matter. Alright. I'm expecting one of them to pull out some tricky napalm rockets or ECM rockets or something, which, honestly, ECM rockets would definitely not even work here. Which is, it's funny, on my rocket run of the game and all that, I ended up trying ECM rockets a bit, and honestly, even in a rocket-only run, they were kind of worthless. Okay, well, got a little bit stuck here, but that's fine. It's quite aggressive. Thing is, I need to nail that first one. I'm not too worried about this long-range plink. Okay. That's fine, that's fine. Okay. Let's go over this way. Now, if I could stop getting stuck on buildings, this would be going a lot better. Again, entirely my fault. What am I walking for there? To be fair, in my defense, I did have X held down. For some reason, it just decided to walk. Oh well. And stuck in a building again. Stuck in a building, but so is he. He's gonna fire in right there. Okay. And let's get you right there. I thought you might. Okay, it didn't give as wide of a turn as I would have thought right there. Okay, so this is one of those pot shot only type of builds. Oh, there we go, he got himself. Now fired too late on that one. Okay. There's a very good chance I'm not recovering out of that one, actually. Yep. Nope. Gonna have to redo this. So definitely a solid build. Doesn't seem to have any sorts of energy issues, for sure. So, as you do. So good job on this one, both you guys. Friendly Hostile for the original build, and for Mr. Javelins for putting all this together. Alright, let's shake that rust. As far as doing the whole no deaths kind of thing, I'll give that a go later when I have a minute. Just kind of casually running through these, but there we go. Now that I've kind of got his number, this should be fairly doable. There we go. And that'll happen sometimes, like you'll just find yourself in a position where, you know, you wind up on the back foot a fair bit due to getting stuck or due to other things, and, you know, it'll happen. That happens in this game in general. But on this map, I feel like it's something that happens a lot more than on other ones, just because of the locations and shapes of the buildings. So you'll, one way or another, you're traveling in circles, and sometimes you'll just find yourself repeatedly stuck over and over and over and over, and sometimes you'll just find yourself in a corner. Because obviously you can memorize the locations of all the buildings and everything else, but eventually you'll forget while trying to aim or something, so such is life. Anyway, there we go. He's almost done here. Right, that was a standard. Don't know how both those missed, but okay. I got one right there, and yeah, I always want to duck behind buildings whenever they have a cannon. I was kind of hoping he would go for a blade right there, but it didn't happen, and there we are. So that is Mr. Friendly Hostile's potatoed, and yeah, that'll be that for the first one. So next up, let's see, who do we have? Next up we have Royal, so see you then.